The Rangers won a wild one last night, and in it, their star rookie Wyatt Langford did something he's never done before. Plus, we talk about what could be Nathan Eovaldi's last start at home as a Texas Ranger, and more. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into what could be Nathan Eovaldi's last start at home as a Texas Ranger, a phenomenal day from Wyatt Langford and Jack Leiter being out of the rotation. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, last night, the Rangers won a wacky 13-8 against the Toronto Blue Jays. A great game for Wyatt Langford, a pretty darn good game for Adolis Garcia, a very good game for Leody Taveras, and not a great game for pretty much any pitcher involved in this one. I mean, that's what happens when you give up 13 runs if you're the losing team and the winning team gives up 8 runs. It's not a great day for pitchers, but it was still a good day for Nathan Eovaldi in the overall. Not the actual results. Only 4 2/3 innings from him, 11 hits and 7 runs, all earned, given up. But he hit the important mark, the 4-inning mark. Now Nathan Eovaldi has gone over 300 combined innings last season and this season. He has pitched 156 2/3 innings this year, 144 innings last year, which means he has triggered his $20 million vesting player option, meaning that he'll have about 5 days after the World Series to decide whether or not he wants to test the waters of free agency. If he does want to test the waters of free agency, which I think financially would be the wise move for him, he absolutely could get more than $20 million on that market. Probably more than 1 year, I'm pretty darn sure. There are a lot of people who will want Nathan Eovaldi on their team, but hopefully he wants to stay that much more. I don't think that it's particularly likely that he exercises that $20 million option. I think it is likely that the Rangers will pursue him. I hope that he will be their top target. I think that will be incredibly important next year for this team contending. Now, I know they're trying to avoid going into the luxury tax, but I've talked about it on shows in the past, and I'll definitely get more of a detailed breakdown on the finances and what it would cost to retain him and Yates and Robertson. But the big picture is that they can afford to do it. And if they want to contend in 2025, there are some internal options that are showing promise and that are very exciting for the first time in a long time. But having a Nathan Eovaldi in your rotation, especially when you get to the postseason, especially in those must-win games down the stretch or just big moments anywhere, he's big game Nate for a reason. We've seen him do that, and not only that, but the impact that he has on other pitchers in this rotation. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times that I've heard, other pitchers in this rotation talk about, oh, here's one thing that, Nathan Eovaldi helped me with. He was, watching over game tape and noticed that I was, doing this certain thing with this certain pitch. I mean, heck, I'm not saying that all of the credit for Kirby Yates's breakout season this year is because Nathan Eovaldi gave him a little tip on how to hold his splitter a little bit better, and that made everything better. I'm not saying it's all Eovaldi's fault, but he definitely gets a decent amount of credit for, helping Kirby Yates, a guy who has been, phenomenal, but is having the best season he's had in half a decade after so many years of injuries, and last year being healthy but not quite as effective. I think that Eovaldi's tips help everybody in this rotation, and honestly, just having Rocker and Leiter up and around Nathan Eovaldi is a huge, huge boost to them of the things that they can learn from him. I mean, also the things they can learn from the two all-time greats in this rotation right now in Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. But I don't know how great those two are at mentoring and implementing or passing on the wisdom that they've learned in a way that Nathan Eovaldi is. If that was the last time we see him pitch at Globe Life Field as a member of the Texas Rangers, I salute him. I send him love. I will always root for Nathan Eovaldi. I hope that all Rangers fans feel the same way. Unless he signs with the Astros, then it's going to be really hard to not be at least a little bitter for a guy who, granted, would be going a little closer to his hometown of Alvin, Texas. But I'm really hoping that if he does sign somewhere else, it's just anywhere besides Houston, I think I would be totally fine with. And I'll still, even if he does, I'll still, feel good feelings about Nathan Eovaldi because of the things that he has done in his Rangers tenure. The Rangers do not win the World Series without him, and he will be a Texas Rangers legend for all time, even in just these 2 seasons. And I have never been, I've never been more wrong about a transaction than I was about Nathan Eovaldi signing with the Rangers as the, 5th, I think, starting pitcher that Texas signed before that 2023 season. I wasn't mad about it. I wasn't, saying, "Oh, this is a disaster. What a dumb signing." I'm like, okay, I don't think they need him. I feel like this is a bit extra. I mean, you already signed, Andrew Heaney, and you already signed, Jacob deGrom, and you already brought back Martin Perez, and you've got Dane Dunning. And why do you need Nathan Eovaldi? Well, it turns out you really do need Nathan Eovaldi. The Rangers really did need Nathan Eovaldi, and the contract that he signed, I mean, what a killer deal for Chris Young to go out and sign him to that deal. Definitely worth the Christmas family time he gave up to go and sign Eovaldi to that deal. A 2-year deal that with incentives, I think will reach as much as maybe $50-something million. But basically getting him for the base price of around $15 million and maybe around $5 million or so in incentives the last couple of years, absolutely 110% worth it. Now, I know the numbers haven't been overall as impressive this year, but I mean, what he did last year, I think he was so much better than the numbers. I think that has been a trend with him in his career, and that's something that it's hard to see and hard to evaluate when you're looking at a free agent pitcher. The year before, when the Rangers signed him, coming off of that 2022 season that was, fine but not great, and seeing, looking at his baseball reference page in 2021, I mean, you can see 32 starts, 180 innings, a 3.75 ERA, 195 strikeouts. Okay, sure, fine. He was an all-star. Okay, fine. Finished 4th in Cy Young. I was like, how? Why did this guy finish 4th in Cy Young? And seeing my Boston Red Sox friends saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're losing Eovaldi. I love this guy so much. What a huge, massive loss for the Red Sox." And I was thinking, okay, maybe the Rangers do have something here. And you can never have enough starting pitching. Ever. And Eovaldi, for the most part, has been fairly durable the last couple of years. I mean, going 140-plus innings each of these last couple of years, which is not something he had done a whole lot in his career. I mean, he had really struggled with injuries a lot in his career, which was part of the reason why I was so concerned. It's not just 1 or 2 injuries. It was a bunch of things. It was a bunch of history of injuries with Eovaldi. And for the most part, the Rangers have kept him durable. And he was in the most important spots, coming up in the biggest way over and over and over again for the Rangers, including being the starting pitcher in Game 5, the decisive, franchise-changing World Series winning game. And he was sensational in that. He was sensational in basically all of his playoff starts, outside of Game 1 of the World Series. And even then, he was mostly fine. But in the other games, I mean, he was downright electric. It was a little terrifying because he'd work himself into some dangerous situations, but work his way out basically every single time. I mean, in games against the Astros, he was phenomenal in big spots. In the game against the Rays, he really didn't work himself into any trouble, and he was just downright dominant. Same in his Game 3 sweep clinching start in the ALDS against the Orioles. He just left absolutely zero doubt. The Rangers offense was nice enough to spot him a few runs, but he took that thing and he freaking ran with it, and he locked the door down time and time again in big starts. And even if this is Eovaldi's last start at home in a Rangers uniform, I salute him, I applaud him, and I wish him the best with whatever comes next, which I'm very much hoping is just coming back to Texas for at least one more year. But someone who's going to be here for way more than 1 year, Wyatt Langford. We're going to talk about his fantastic game and what he did that he had never done before that makes me incredibly encouraged for him in this last month of the season and moving forward. Right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Right now, FanDuel's got all kinds of different odds right now on American League Rookie of the Year. Somehow, still, Wyatt Langford, after his amazing game last night and his incredible September tear, is not in the top 5 for odds right now. The Yankees' right-handed pitcher, Luis Gil, is the favorite at -155. Austin Wells, the second favorite, at +300. And Colton Cowser, the third favorite, at +350. Also, if you're thinking maybe it's Mason Miller, at the 5th favorite at +20,000. So head over to FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. This show is brought to you by Game Time. Getting tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be hard. And with Game Time, it's not. No matter what you're trying to go to, whether you're trying to go and see Kamar Rocker making his home MLB debut on Thursday in an afternoon day game, you can get tickets on Game Time. Or if you want to go see Jacob deGrom in his last home start of the season, you can find those tickets on Game Time. Game Time now has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff and shows you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. They've also got all-in pricing. Entitling this feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. They've also got panoramic seat views you can see on your phone in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what it's going to look like when you get there. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. The Rangers take on the Blue Jays tonight, 7:05 p.m. Central Time at first pitch. Cody Bradford versus Bowden Francis, and you can catch every pitch of the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Should be a really interesting one tonight with Cody Bradford on the hill, and Bowden Francis, if you don't know much about him, he is having a pretty solid rookie season. And fun little fact, he has had in the last, I think, month and a half, maybe his last 6 starts, twice he has taken a no-hitter into the 8th inning and lost it, giving up a leadoff home run to the batter in the 9th inning. Hopefully he doesn't do that again tonight, because I would like to see the Rangers score a whole lot of runs. And if Wyatt Langford continues doing what he's been doing like he did last night, then the Rangers will definitely keep scoring quite a bit of runs. He reached base 5 times last night. That is the rookie Wyatt Langford, with 3 extra base hits. One, a ground rule double that I think he maybe could have turned into a triple had it not popped up and bounced right over the fence. Then a bloop RBI double that I think pretty much everybody else on this roster does not turn into a double. Maybe Evan Carter would if he was still here and healthy and hitting bloop RBI doubles. And then the thing that he hadn't done at all this year, well, he had done once, but also not done it. He hit a home run to the opposite field. This is something that he has done once in his big league career. And he also hasn't done it because that one opposite field home run was actually the inside the park home run, the first of his big league career. So he had not hit an outside the park opposite field home run, but he did so last night. One of his 3 extra base hits to go with 2 walks. Just incredible game from Wyatt. Also showing some initiative out there in left field, feeling more confident out there defensively. And the home run that he hit was an absolute, laser beam out there to the opposite field, a no-doubter on a really, really good at-bat. I mean, he was having great at-bats all night. This one was the 6th pitch of the at-bat against the lefty reliever, Mr. Little. A fastball, 94.3 mile an hour sinker up and away, still kind of over the plate, but he took it where it was pitched, and he drove it right to the opposite field, 102.8 miles an hour, an absolute laser beam from the rookie Wyatt Langford. And this guy, I mean, he has been just on fire as of late. Also, his first double, 103.2 miles an hour off the bat. Neither of those 2 laser beam hits ended up being in the top 5 of exit velocities in this game, because there were a whole lot of hard hit balls. And then funny enough, his bloop double was one of his 2 fast swings on the night, 75 miles an hour or more on the bat speed, but only came off the bat at 59.8 miles an hour. Expected batting average of still 480 because he blooped it in exactly the right spot, but a couple of walks as well. And just overall, I went through and looked at every single one of his swings, and of the, I believe, 7 or 8, maybe 9 swings that he took, there were really only 1 or 2 that were not great swing decisions, and even those were in hitters counts where you can afford to be hacking just a little bit, something that I actually wanted to see a little bit more of. Sometimes it felt like he was a little too choosy at the plate, a little, too passive, but he is not doing that anymore. He has been on fire in the last month. He has been crushing lefties. He's been crushing it in the month of September. He's hitting 345 with an on-base of 424, a 672 slugging percentage. That is a 1,097 OPS in 15 games so far this month. He already has 4 home runs this month, which is the most that he's had in any month. And he's only played 15 games so far. I mean, the guy has been on fire as of late. There was a moment late in August where he said, "I'm obviously disappointed by my season. I haven't had the year that I've wanted to." And since then, this is according to Sean McFarlane, he has doubled his Fangraphs WAR since then. He's hitting 313 since August 20th when he said that. At that point, his Fangraphs WAR was 0.9. Now, according to Fangraphs, it is at 1.8. At least that was before last night. Now it's at 2.2. So he has more than doubled his Fangraphs WAR in the last, a span of basically 30 days? I mean, overall, you look at the overall numbers, he's got a 729 OPS this year, which, according to OPS Plus, is 7% better than the league average. And it's not really what the Rangers were hoping for. I mean, his baseball reference WAR, you look at it as 2.9. That's nearly a 3-WAR season. As a rookie, that's solid. It's not spectacular. We've seen incredible, spectacular moments from him. There have been a lot of months where he just has not been super great. I mean, the first month of the season was really tough on him. Once he came back in June, he looked fantastic. Won AL Rookie of the Month for the month of June. But July and August were real down months for him. I mean, he was not impacting the ball in the way that you would like. A lot of the swing decisions that he was making were not smart. He was being too passive, and he was expanding the zone on pitches that he should have expanded the zone on. Granted, he's also been working with a pretty bad strike zone, a very ungenerous rookie strike zone. I think that will hopefully improve next year, but there's no guarantees of that. But even if it doesn't, he is making the most of it as of late. And you look at the totality of the season, you kind of have to remind yourself, okay, this guy was drafted about a year ago. He's had 200 plate appearances in the minors because he was just so good at adjusting and getting better at every single level that he was not being challenged. There was nothing more for him to learn to the point where he needed to make his MLB debut at the start of the season. There was no other place for him to go. And yeah, it hasn't been like Evan Carter's first month of last year. That was not normal. What Evan Carter did last year in September and in October was extremely not normal, which is why I was raving so much about it. I mean, you don't see kids, especially when Evan was, younger than Wyatt was. I mean, Evan just turned 21 and has two of the best months of his baseball life against the hardest pitching he's ever faced, and helps the Rangers win a World Series. It's an all-time great start to a career, and something I don't think even Evan himself thinks he's going to sustain for a career. But you take a step back and you look at the overall progress of Wyatt. You see the game-changing speed he's got. You see him, coming into his own defensively as an outfielder, something that a lot of people thought, myself included, thought it would take a long time for him to get to passable, and I think he has surpassed passable in a corner. I think he is, above average, not quite elite, but above average with the potential to be elite, and the potential to be at least average, if not above average, in center field, I think, eventually as well. And you just look at that and you realize, okay, 22-year-olds aren't doing that. This is not a normal thing. These expectations were a little bit unfair, actually more than a little bit unfair. And granted, that's what they were. And those were the expectations that he had for himself and the franchise had for him. And even though he's not, the Rangers' second best hitter this year, which is something that I really thought he might be heading into the season, he's still having a really darn good year. And moments like that, games like that kind of show you, oh, all right, this year's kind of stunk. But this team has got a lot to be excited about moving forward, including some young pitchers, including one Jack Leiter, who apparently isn't in the rotation anymore. Talk about why that's frustrating and feels like a misguided move, as well as some Rangers announcing their minor league Players of the Year awards. Right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by our newest sponsor, Arena Club. For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on an Ellie De La Cruz or Patrick Mahomes rookie card, it's just not in the cards. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. But thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and a clear hit rates for each one. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they immediately are be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided and explaining of how your card was scored. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchased by going to arenaclub.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB. That's arenaclub.com/LockedOnMLB, code LockedOnMLB for 10% off your first purchase. Now, before we finish talking about the offense from last night, I did want to give a shout out to a couple of guys who needed big swings in a big way and got them. A couple of great at-bats, actually several great plate appearances by Jonah Heim, including a two-run single with the bases loaded, just driving a ball up the middle. Also, a really great swing on that double that he had late on in the game. I mean, I thought that was one of the better swings I've seen Heim take in weeks, and my goodness, did he need it, because it has been a really rough year for him offensively, defensively. I talked about it on Monday's show with the bad look of him complaining and being a little bit of a fun cop. Good to see him have a good offensive day last night. Also, Leody Taveras, a 3-hit game, including what David Murphy said, and I totally echo as the best swing that Leody has taken all year. Just an absolute backspun laser beam 2-run home run on a cutter on the inside part of the plate that he just turned on and smacked the bejesus out of. He really needed that kind of a swing and a 3-hit game. I mean, Leody's future as an everyday player is very much in question next year. I'll probably talk extensively about it in the offseason of what they're going to do with the outfield. Defensively, I think I would rather Adolis be a DH next year and have, Evan and Wyatt on the corners and Leody in center, but that's only if Leody's offense can be at least league average, which is very much a question at this point. What's also a question is Jack Leiter going to be a starter long term? I've talked a lot about it, and the improvements that he's made the last couple of games have been really impressive, genuinely very impressive. And I think he's pitched significantly better than the line indicates in all of his last 4 appearances. Basically, since he's been called back up on August 28th against the White Sox, I thought he pitched much better than his line in that game. I thought against the Yankees, he definitely pitched much better than his line. And against the Angels as well, I mean, he gave up 3 runs in that one, but he keeps getting got by relievers. I think it's always been Andrew Chafin that end up letting some of the inherited runners that should not be score anyway. And I mean, against the Mariners, 4 innings where the only runs that he gave up, had Schoenheim not called that fastball right down the middle that was served for a massive 2-run homer, I mean, had that at bat gone a little bit differently, and Jack Leiter's going 4 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts and 2 walks. That would be a great performance. Alas, that's not how it happened. And alas, Jack Leiter, for now, is in the bullpen. That's what Bruce Bochy said. He said there has not been any discussion about whether Jack will start, or there has not been any definitive answer. He just said, for now, Jack's in the bullpen. And I don't love that. I don't think it's a smart decision. I'm a little frustrated. It's hard to be frustrated when one of the greatest pitchers of all time comes off the IL to pitch again for your team. But when your team is out of it, and Max Scherzer is going to be a free agent at the end of this year, I think he'll probably command somewhere in the at least $15 million range. I don't know what he's going to provide moving forward. I get that he wants to have an outlet to show, hey, I'm healthy, I'm back from all the stuff that I was dealing with, and I can go and pitch next year and be a part of somebody's rotation. But it's not going to be the Rangers rotation, and Andrew Heaney is also not going to be probably in the Rangers rotation next year, as good as he's been. I think that moving Heaney to the pen and giving Leiter the chance to go out there and get some starts and get some opportunities to just go out there and struggle at the big league level in games that don't matter, because the Rangers are going to be contending next year. And long term, having a guy with Jack's potential, he does still have that potential to be a middle of the rotation to maybe number 2 starting pitcher. Maybe. We'll see. But he's not going to learn that by being in the bullpen. Unless he's doing these kind of piggyback starts, there is still kind of that consistency of the routine of going out there and pitching once a week or once every 5 games or whatever it is. You're not getting those opportunities to learn. And if you're wanting to contend for the long term, for the long haul, which the Rangers do, they want this to be a one-off bad year. They don't want to ideally go like the Giants did in win World Series, miss the playoffs, win World Series, miss the playoffs. I mean, they'd take it, but they would rather be in the playoffs every single year and competing. So there's not going to be that many opportunities for Jack Leiter to struggle at the big league level to get better. Like that game against the Yankees, where he probably could have come out after he pitched 5 innings, but the Rangers wanted him to face that order a third time through, figure out how to get guys out a third time in a game, and he didn't do it. But maybe the next time that he started, he could have done that. But he's not getting that opportunity. And I feel like it's a bit of a waste because, this is hopefully the last time that the Rangers are playing out the stretch in the next at least 3, 4, 5 years. Maybe just the next 2. Who knows? But hopefully the Rangers aren't having those opportunities for Jack Leiter to go out there in a big league game and learn and struggle and, not have the results particularly matter. He's not going to have that. And he might still be a reliever. The Rangers might end up putting him in the bullpen. And I think if they did, I think he'd be absolutely electric as a late inning reliever, a closer, what have you. But you could do that at any time. You could do that at any time of moving him to the bullpen saying, hey, you're a reliever now. Go out there and let it eat and just go blow guys away. And I think he'd be really darn good at that. But I think he should be a starter. And you got to give him every chance to start at these games that don't matter while you've got it. But speaking of young guys who are having great years, the Rangers announced their minor league players of the year for this season. The Rangers' Tom Grieve, minor league player of the year. Alejandro Ozuna, an outfielder who spent time between High-A Hickory and Double-A Frisco. He had a fantastic season, like absolutely fantastic, and he's well deserving of this award. The Rangers, Nolan Ryan, pitcher of the year, right-handed pitcher Alejandro Rosario, who ended up getting promoted to Double-A, but not pitching because he is dealing with some fatigue. So his season is done after a great year. The reliever of the year, left-handed pitcher Brian Magdaleno, a great year for him as well. Defender of the year, third baseman Cody Freeman, spent time in Frisco, converted from a catcher, had a pretty good offensive season as well. And the True Ranger Award, second baseman Jax Biggers, who spent the entire year at AAA Round Rock. The one of these that I want to focus on is, of course, the Nolan Ryan pitcher of the year, because the Rangers don't have the best history with it feels a little bit cursed in this award. I'll just read you the last few names and you can kind of see for yourself of why that's happened. Last year's award winner, Jose Corniel. He has not pitched this season because he had Tommy John surgery. 2022 award winner, Cole Reagans. Well, he's the only one who's survived the curse the last few years, but he is not pitching for the Rangers anymore, unfortunately. Still World Series champion. Love him. Wish him the best. Hopefully get to see him in a playoff start this year. 2021 winner, Cole Winn. Yep, we all know how that went. And then there was none in 2020. And then let's just go read you the last few before that. 2019, Jason Barr. 2018, Tyler Phillips. 2017, Kyle Cody. 2016, Yohander Mendez. 2015, Ariel Gerardo. I could keep going, but I don't want you to get too depressed at the end of this episode. But I don't think that this curse is applying. Hopefully next year, I think Alejandro Rosario will have his Double-A debut at some point next year. I'm sure he will start the year there. Maybe he'll make his Major League debut next year. Not entirely sure, but just a great year for pitching prospects in general, and all these guys are very deserving. Maybe surprised that Sebastian Walcott didn't win, even though he was the most impressive. I'm most impressed by what Sebastian Walcott did this year. His numbers weren't quite as good as what Alejandro Ozuna was doing out there in Hickory and in Frisco, and he is well deserving of these awards. But that's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.